Thank you very much. Sarah's right. You can rest assured that I will not be lengthy in my remarks. The flight schedules at MCI, at KCI, keep changing on me, and I come home every weekend, but getting back is becoming more problematic. I've been in the Senate long enough to have developed a habit of concluding my remarks about 4 times saying "in conclusion," and this morning maybe I can avoid more than one "in conclusion." This is a really important time. I thought the timing in which this Outlook conference is occurring is taking place in which I actually see developments in Washington, D.C. that are more optimistic to me than they were a week ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 months ago. I was very much a critic of Senator Stabenow, Chairwoman Stabenow, in regards to her comments months ago about she's satisfied with the current farm bill. I've been on the conference committee for 3 farm bills and through 4 or 5 of them in my time in the Senate, and no committee chairman has ever said, let's just go with what we got. And the reality is that the circumstances that agricultural producers face are, I've been at this a long time. It's always difficult, and these are the most dire times, the most challenging times, and this is the worst time in agriculture. I know that we say that, but there is really few things in today's input costs and price received for commodities. There is next to nothing, if there is anything, to think that there's a comfort level for things good happening in agriculture. I spent the month of August, when Congress is out of session, when the Senate was out of session, in Kansas. I put 5,600 miles on my Ford F-150, and I was from Sedan, Kansas, in south central Kansas, to Liberal, to St. Francis, to Elwood. And this is the topic of conversation. I returned to Washington, D.C., telling my staff and the leadership in my office our number one priority is to push, to pursue, and to see if we can't accomplish a farm bill. My moment of optimism came last Thursday. Well, first let me tell you that many of you in this room and organizations which you belong to and represent were in Washington, D.C. last week. And in my view, the magnitude of the problem plus the magnitude of the representation from agricultural interests across the country in Washington, D.C. Had a consequence. There is this thing called an election in November, and it's a perfect time to remind both Republicans and Democrats that agricultural interests have yet to cast their votes in November, and movement on a farm bill and a commitment to get one done might be something that would encourage rural votes for whoever is the candidate running for office, including members of Congress, the House, the Senate, and in a presidential race. So thank you to the farm groups and the individuals in this room who came to Washington, D.C. To make that case, to make that point. Senator Stabenow and I's conversation occurred on the Senate floor last Thursday, in which she is telling me that things are so dire in agriculture, with input costs as high as they are and commodity prices as low as they are, that we cannot afford to wait past the end of the year. Our conversation was perhaps at the Senate and House Appropriations Committee, Agricultural Appropriations Subcommittee, may be the venue by which we could get something done, and that what she and I talked about was an extension of the current farm bill. That's words that don't suggest, success, but something more than just extending the farm bill, which is dealing with Title I and the safety net that agricultural producers need. My conversations across Kansas in August were not just with farmers and ranchers. They were with implement dealers and implement manufacturers, and the sale of farm equipment and the manufacturing demands are minimal across our state. And I think we would be representative of much of the country because there is just no farm income. The Kansas bankers will be in this week. They will tell me the same thing that I've heard from other lenders in the farm arena, that things are challenging. The good news to me is that Senator Stabenow is working to put together a plan to move forward that is an extension of some of the things in the farm bill, but most importantly, something that is added to provide assistance. She also recognizes that reference prices the compensation occurs long after the crop year and the loss has occurred, and long after the expenses have been incurred and the debt increased. And so she is looking for a path forward that would deliver agricultural aid, assistance to farmers in a more timely fashion than just altering the current provisions of Title I. So I think there's hope on the horizon. I'm going to the airport to go to Washington, D.C., and I'm going back with this effort to pursue. And as we work to fund the federal government, this may be the opportunity in which we can also make a difference in regard to the Farm Bill. Its reauthorization, it's semi-reauthorization with provisions to assist in that safety net issue. And the House members that I've talked to following that conversation and my ag staff report that this sentiment is also developing on the House side. Senator Stabenow indicated that she's found it difficult in recent times to find any partners to partner with. And by that, I think she's complaining about the insistent demands that nutrition program, SNAP, be reduced by the folks that she's been negotiating with. And we, I think, can find a common ground and a common set of partners that we can move something forward that allows both Republicans and Democrats, particularly those in the middle of their parties, to find that common ground. Farm bills have become a challenge, and the politics of them are such that there's a set of folks in the Senate and the House, both on one side, the Democrats who probably will never vote for the Farm Bill, and a set of Republicans, particularly in the House, but elsewhere, who would never vote for a Farm Bill. And if we're going to get something done, it's going to take something that puts the practicalities and puts them at the forefront to get an accomplishment. I've indicated from the beginning that I want to do a Farm Bill, that I'm interested in conservation and research as it relates to drought and the Ogallala. And so just an extension doesn't meet that criteria for me. The House members that I've talked to say that we are either going to do a full extension or we're going to do a mini extension plus, and that's plus the assistance for commodity, for the circumstances we have with commodity prices, and most importantly, input costs. I want to look at the statistic, but I didn't realize this till I saw it on paper. U.S. agricultural trade deficit is estimated to hit a record $42.5 billion by the end of the year. And historically, regularly, we've always looked to exports as the way to build markets for our commodities. We can produce more than we can sell in the United States, and we've got to figure out how to revitalize, in whatever the next administration is, the opportunity for agricultural exports, or there is going to continue to be lack of income on the farm. In light of that, but just generally, we are always trying to find other markets for agricultural commodities, and I wanted to highlight something I participated last week, the end of August, in southwest Kansas. I've organized and created and announced on the Senate floor last week a SAF, S-A-F in capitals, caucus, a group of us banding together to advance the cause of renewable aviation fuel. And Senator Bozeman and Senator Duckworth have joined me in that effort to educate our colleagues and to pursue policies that would increase another market for agricultural commodities. And evidence of that having a home state, I realize I'm in Missouri, and I married a Missourian. I don't know that I pronounced the state's name correctly, but I married a Missourian, so I don't have the usual biases that sometimes the residents of our two states exhibit. I married, my wife is from Independence, Missouri. My standard was she didn't go to MU, she went to William Jewell, and that seemed fine to me. And I also would tell this story for my Missouri remember always, the game I always wanted to see in Allen Fieldhouse was the KU-MU game. And it was such a tradition and so much excitement. And you remember that Norm Stewart always announced that he would not spend one dime in Kansas. His team would not spend a night, and they would not buy a meal there when they played basketball there. A few years back, I was going through my nominations for young men and women who wanted to go to one of the academies. And my panel who interviewed and made the recommendation to me that two boys from Johnson County with the last name Stewart be two of my nominees. It turns out they're Norm Stewart's grandkids. So not would he not spend a dime in Kansas, but his family lived there. And so I've been, just as we do in Washington, D.C., trying to pull people together, we've been working on trying to make certain that, one, my marriage lasts, and two, that Kansans and Missourians can have success. And certainly we see that, the importance of that here in Kansas City. So sustainable aviation fuel, those agricultural exports are way down. That used to be the thing we could brag about as far as providing. We were always selling more than we were importing, and our policies need to reflect our national security needs, but also our economic needs. And we're working to make certain that, and in the meantime, that there's other opportunities. Southwest Airlines, combined with Conestoga Energy, a renewable fuel, an ethanol plant in Garden City and Liberal, formed a joint venture and are in the process of building a facility to manufacture renewable aviation fuel. There's also this potential of a Canadian company doing the same thing outside the Bartlett Grain soybean processing plant outside of Cherryville, Kansas, in southeast Kansas. Again, looking for agriculture and aviation to come together, and our state is a perfect place for that to occur. Anything that we can do in our office that would be helpful. In conclusion, anything that we can do in our office that is helpful to agriculture. One of my primary interests in serving in public office was a belief that my hometown and many of your hometowns are places that are great to live in, great to raise a family in, great to grow up in. And in the absence of successful agriculture, the opportunities we have in Kansas and Missouri, in rural America, are so limited. And there is no success in places that I come from and many of you come from in the absence of success in agriculture. And we want to do everything we can to see that farmers and ranchers have that success and all the benefits when they're successful they provide to the places we call home. Thank you for letting me join you, and I'm going to catch a plane. Thank you.